This is my point. You're not just defining sin as things we should feel guilty about. You're defining sin as things that upset a very specific God.
The
If somebody does not know about your theology, if they do not know about your God's rules, his expectations, then their understanding of failings and shortcomings and misdeeds have nothing to do with your theology.
no,
Your theology, go ahead.
no, the thing is, everything that God gets upset about and everything that God has determined to be sinful is something that God has also revealed to every single individual by giving them a thing that is called as the conscience. So everyone has that, and
Oh,
that's the reason why a person feels upset when he does something wrong, and that's the reason why a person feels guilty when he does something wrong,
do,
because it's
do you
God who
understand?
placed it inside their hearts. So therefore, they are
Do you,
inexcused. Yeah,
okay, do you understand that there are many people who are able to have sex outside of marriage without feeling any sense of guilt about it?
yeah, because they have murdered the conscience that God has placed in their hearts.
Well, they clearly haven't, because a lot of people that feel no guilt about having sex outside of marriage do feel guilty when they lie, cheat, or steal, right? So clearly their conscience has not been murdered,
No,
right?
their conscience is murdered because they have, you know, modified their conscience according to their own biases. I want to commit this sin, so therefore allow me for this sin. But again, if I do something else, then yeah, let the conscience remain and work about the other sin. So they have modified the conscience that God has placed in their hearts according to their own convenience, and that's what people do. They they
But you don't
they
know that.
create rules according to their own
Well,
convenience, and they
here's the
create
thing.
gods according to their own convenience. But the God of the Bible is the God which cannot be created by some human beings, because if any human created this God according to his convenience, then that human does not exist, because this God is not convenient to any human being. He is so righteous that no human being can say, oh yeah, I am someone who satisfies all the standards of this God, and therefore I'm just going to create this God. No, that's the thing. All the gods that we find are some kind of creations of people which satisfy their own convenience. You know, a god that is okay with my sex before marriage, a god that is okay with my homosexuality. They create these kinds of god. But the God of the Bible uh, doesn't satisfy any human's desire. He just opposes every human's desire, because all humans have wrong desires because they are in sin. So no human might have created or generated this God, and yeah, that's the thing.
I understand. Your every answer is just to tell me about your theology. Your theology is not obvious to people who've not
It's a
researched and
fact
submitted
that
to your
that that
theology.
that all the gods are, creations of people's own
You don't know
convenience.
that. You do not know that.
I know enough of the history, and in the history, I find people, for example, all of the mythologies that you find in Greece and everything, the people created gods according to their own convenience. It's all there in the history. People time to time created gods and started praying to them just because they wanted comfort in something, but doesn't want to surrender to him, but want them to tell God what they want to do, like treating God like a genie. God, just help us, and you don't tell us what we have to do. You just, be a genie. Three wishes, ta-da. That's what people have always been doing. But this God, the God of the Bible, is something different, and therefore human beings cannot just create him, because who would be that person who would create a God that tells him that you are a sinner? Why would he do that kind of a bad, hard thing to generate a
Oh,
god?
that's easy. That's easy to answer. Right. So
And
your
what's
argument is that your argument here in the moment is that surely nobody created the idea of a God that has a set of rules he calls sins, because people don't like to be under rules about how they behave. So there's no way they would create a God that gives them rules that they don't want to be under. But here's the thing: if there are men who want to control other people, and they're like, we want you guys to have a set of rules that you have to follow, other people are going to be like, who are you to tell me how I can live, who I'm allowed to be in a relationship with,
Hmm.
who I'm allowed to have sex with, what I'm allowed to do, what I'm allowed to eat, what I'm allowed to wear, what I'm allowed to think and feel. Who are you? So a solution was created by men that wanted power over other people. They created the idea of a God that had rules that other people are obligated to, and they made sure that the rules were rules that the men at the top want people to have, right? So the men at the top want to make sure that people continue to have babies in the tribe, because only in the tribe do those men have power and control. If you say you can go have sex with anybody and have kids with anybody, then people are going to be having children outside the tribe, which means children that don't serve the interests of the tribe and the men at the top. So they say you can't have sex with anybody that's not in our tribe, and you can only have sex with people in the tribe, which means you have to make a lifetime permanent commitment to those relationships within the tribe to ensure that they continue to pop out babies that serve the interests of the men at the top. And they have all these different rules. And the men at the top, sometimes they have their own personal whims. They don't like shellfish. So now they say, the creator of the universe doesn't like shellfish either. You can't eat them, right? It's just a personal whim that they're trying to enforce on everybody else. So, of course, they're going to create rules other people don't want to be under because it serves the interests of the men at the top.
Yes, whatever you have said is absolutely true, and it applies to all the false religions. That's how all the false religions were created. For example, I can name one, that's Islam, and all the rest of the few of them. But when it comes to Christianity, the very faith is something that says that the leaders will be judged first. So this argument cannot be applied on the faith of the Bible, because this demands the leaders to be judged first and then the others who are listeners. The thing that you just said is factually inaccurate, because you said that in the Hebrew culture, in the Hebrew religion, in the Judaism, you don't have the idea of uh, the top becoming the low. It's something that only was introduced with Jesus. That's not factually correct.
Okay.
God judges the leaders first is something that you find from the beginning. You find it from the time of Moses. You find it in Judaism itself. The Tanakh is something that
Mhm.
repeatedly says that God resisted the proud and gives grace to the humble. This is in the Tanakh, the Jewish text. God hates the proud but gives grace to the humble is something that's affirmed in the Old Testament
Right. So,
and in the New Testament as well. And
right.
God did judge the leaders. Moses died because of the punishment of God. Imagine, he's the greatest of the leader who brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt into the land of Canaan. He died because God showed his wrath because of Moses' disobedience. So, if Moses was the one who created this whole religion, why would God punish him? And why would he create a message that I disobeyed, and therefore God is punishing me, and you better be careful? Why would he create something like that? Aaron, the priest, he gets punished by God. His sons get punished by God. Eli, the priest, gets punished by God. His sons gets punished by God, and it's so on and so forth. Every single prophet commits the sin and gets punished by God. So these prophets would not create a religion that punishes themselves. You see?